15, cuts left at the 20, lots of room at the 30, headed to the near sideline, one man to beat, makes the move at midfield, coming to the near side at the 30, he's at the 20, he's at the 10, 5, touchdown, Kentucky!
We're off and running with another episode of Believe in Kentucky, courtesy of the Believe Podcast Network. Got Aaron Gershon of the Cat's Paws as always, and AG, we got two great guests here with us this evening because it's Big Blue Madness Friday. We got a cool LED floor on Rupp Arena's court. Coming to us from ASB GlassFloor, we got the Director of Americas and Director of Strategy, Chris Thornton and Benedikt BVD, talking about this floor. Guys, appreciate y'all being on here with us. How we doing this evening?
Thanks for having us. Fantastic.
Doing good.
Good. So first of all, I know y'all don't have a lot of time because you're still getting a lot of stuff done, but how's Lexington? Welcome to Kentucky. How have your many visits back and forth to Lexington gone so far?
Yeah, it's been a good collaboration with the university for the past 2.5 months is basically when we got the approval to launch this. I'm based in New York, so it was a nice trip down for me for the week, and we arrived here on Sunday. We started unloading the trucks. Move-in started Monday morning at 8 a.m., and basically the court is ready to go. We're already ready to go for Friday night. We have some players coming on in tomorrow for media and capturing some content. Tonight we hosted some media and some of the alumni. And then the next day and a half or so is just final rehearsals and the run of the show, final changes. But the court's ready. It's looking awesome. So we can't wait to show it off on Friday night.
AG, you did some of that media stuff as well today, right? Or were you?
I was not. I had football media today, but I saw some of the clips that some of my colleagues put out, and it's definitely different than anything Kentucky's done, which I think maybe it was brought up to you guys when Kentucky was thinking about doing this. They just needed to revamp this event. I mean, obviously it was already going to be different with a new coach, but honestly, Big Blue Madness it was kind of the same thing every year. It was getting stale, and this seems like a big change that I think will be really, really fun for those who are going to be in attendance there.
Yeah. No, it definitely adds a different element to it. And that's the whole thing about the court. You know, it's the whole purpose for being there, aside from being an unbelievable court in itself, is to bring a different sense of entertainment, different sense of fan engagement, you know, show them what the future of sports or indoor sports might look like, and kind of introduce that, and being able to do that here with a school that has so much sports pedigree and has been around is obviously fantastic for us, and a great opportunity, hopefully for both parties. So it's super exciting.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it for sure. And like Aaron said, and we talked about before we were recording, we saw some snippets, you know, BB and tonight. We saw you guys on TV already, so looking forward to when that hits and they do those pieces. So know y'all have had a full day, work-wise, media-wise, press-wise, so appreciate you taking time to hop on with us. You guys talked about as far as the experience, because we're not going to ask you to spill the tea on what's going to happen Friday. Everybody has to go to Rupp Arena or turn on their televisions to see. But just from a player experience standpoint for the court, like for instance, you know, just perspiration, and you sweat on the court. I mean, you sweat on a hardwood floor, or a hardwood floor that has a hockey ice underneath it, and there's condensation. So how do you? I mean, I'm not asking you anything that y'all haven't went over and tested out many times, but how do you handle condensation and perspiration on the LED ASB glass court?
The floor is engineered German engineering, so it is built for athletes first and foremost as a safe and elastic and sustainable flooring for competitive sports at the elite level. That's first and foremost, like the player experience, and we're a glass company. So it's from a player experience, it's the first time they're also playing on glass, because they're probably used to playing on the streets or cement or, you know, gymnasium courts. So player experience, a fan experience is a given, because there's so much cool content that you could do on the court. And then from a coaching experience as well, it gives the coaches some tools to do some X's and O's on an iPad in real life on the floor. But we realize that in order for this to work, we've got to make sure the arena likes this and it's easy to move in. We got to make sure that the teams are able to play on this, and we got to make sure that the media also likes it and it looks good on TV cameras.
Yeah.
So the floor is actually a metal structure with LED tiles that are being held by the aluminum or the metal structure. And then on top of that is this thin piece of glass. That is 2 pieces of glass that are fused together. And the secret sauce is in the glass because there's a resin in there, and there's a top surface that is finished also with this resin and these little dots that are burnt in that allows the players to feel like they're playing on a hardwood. You're going to hear the same screeches and the sneaker screeches of a hardwood court. The ball bounces in the same way that you're going to feel on a hardwood court. And then the engineering wise, there's a contraption underneath. There's some airflow because LED tiles give off heat naturally. We've got an airflow system that's underneath that always keeps it cool and the air circulation underneath the court. And in addition to that, we have temperature sensors underneath the court. So we're constantly monitoring the heat underneath the court. But on the playing surface, you don't feel that heat because all the heat is all dissipating from underneath.
Right. But best part is, the additional part to your question also is, what happens to the condensation, the sweat, to all that kind of stuff is because of the heat of the LEDs. You also have the advantage of that which is not very hot, but the advantage of it, if you do sweat on the court, it actually evaporates pretty quickly. So as opposed to wooden courts or anything like that, where you have to go over and wipe off the sweat, this stuff is pretty cool. You go on there within a couple seconds, the sweat basically evaporates and it's a dry court again. So I think that's kind of a cool thing and one of the many features the court has.
I really have thought of everything, huh?
And sometimes, a lot has been thought of. That's for sure.
And even if somebody spills a cup of water on the court, you're able to actually see the water on a glass court much better than you would on a wood court. It actually is a little bit brighter, so you can actually see where the wet spots are. So if it's a bigger spill, easy to see, much easier to see.
And even if it's wet, it still doesn't slip. It's not very slippery because of the way it's built. There's a layer in between, so the shoe still grips despite it being a little bit wet. So that's another one of the features of the court.
Very cool.
Did I cut you off, Aaron? Do you have a question?
No, you're good.
Okay. And my other thing from a coaching standpoint, everybody's played basketball at any level from when you're a kid. You've heard it a million times. You got to know where you are on the floor. Know where you are on the floor. So from that standpoint, you said there's some things from a coaching perspective. So how do they make sure it's still able to know where you are on the floor from a player standpoint, and make sure the coach can still coach that
now,
up?
if you look at coaching nowadays, what's happening? It's either on the chart that you're drawing it on, or it's on an iPad that the coaches are drawing on. That doesn't necessarily always translate to every player. Translating from what's on the board to how to move on the floor is not necessarily for everybody super intuitive. So we've come up with a way, and this is the great thing about this canvas, what we call the floor, is that you can literally draw your plays on the floor. You can create software. We have software that allows you to basically, for every team independently and customize their own ways, their own training things on it. So where does a player have to go? We have live tracking capabilities that basically allow us to show different teams in real time where to be at what point. Spacing, all that kind of data is available today, and the court gives you the ability to show it on the court, which gives it a real much better way for players to really picture and understand where to go, when to go, and how to move. So that makes it real cool. We believe that that's the next step in terms of, and will really drive adoption of this court as well, is that coaches and around the world, especially on the NBA level and D1 college level, will really adopt to this and use this as a real tool.
That is awesome. DVD, man, you told us before we started recording that you play some professional basketball. So I just got to ask, How tall are you? And give us a little scouting report on your game, man. Well,
no, I'm not the biggest, but I'm 6'4.5". I just had somebody on the street ask me how tall I was, and I was like, oh, he was no, I'm about 6'4". I played the shooting guard back in Germany when I was playing out there. Game was the inside outside, so good shooter, but always had to guard the big guys down low, which was my downfall.
So they were taking you to the low block, huh?
Well, exactly. I always had to defend the big guys down low. So no,
he still got it. He was shooting around on the court all day today. He still has the shot. He's in shape. So he still looks like bad news.
Whenever you throw me a ball and I got to play.
Did you play some as well, Chris? Or
so I came from the ice hockey world. I played Division I college hockey at UMass Amherst. So college athlete at heart, understand the experience from the recruiting standpoint and picking a school and picking the right culture and a program. So even though I didn't play basketball, I understand the nuances of, in my case, it was different ice surfaces. You would go to, our home ice was a different feeling than Boston College's ice surface. So same thing in basketball, you have a different feel of the home arenas and ASB GlassFloor is going to give the team that installs this permanently or for their full-time home court, because Big Blue Mass is just a one-night event. In the future, we see this being the home court of teams in the NCAA. It's going to give that team that advantage of playing on that court, and ultimately more and more teams hopefully getting the ASB GlassFloor. So in that world of college athletics, right? The universities are building up their facilities. What cool new technologies? What can they offer the players coming into the university? And Kentucky is certainly leading the charge here by bringing the latest technology into the space. So I know there are some recruits that are going to be here over the next couple of nights. They're happy to show those off. So. Listen, all the universities are looking to get an edge, and what is it going to be? And we feel like this is certainly one of it. So
that is really cool.
How many NBA teams use it currently? I feel like I've seen it at. I'm a New York guy as well, so I've been to the Garden plenty. I feel like I've seen something similar. Or is this state of the art new happenings that we're seeing Friday?
This is new happenings. There's no globally
nothing even similar to it then.
No, I mean, there's LED floors per se that you see in, concerts and maybe this, but nothing is proved on a high professional level, elite level for sports. So, the road with the NBA has been great. We started off at the All-Star. We're now moving forward into, getting got approval for all practice facilities, getting the players on there, getting them to experience the court, And I think that's the main goal that we have right now in the U.S. in our rollout is always the player comes first, safety comes first. It's not so much that we don't believe in that the capabilities of the floor, but you have to give the players the opportunity to experience what this feels like. It's like when you go to the gym and the weights are in the wrong place. You kind of lose your motivation a little bit. It's same here. It might sound a little bit different. It might look a little bit different. But at the end of the day, it plays the same or plays better in our opinion. And our goal right now is just to get players on there, have them experience it, have them know what's going on. And this is also what the NBA is doing right now with that approval for the practice facilities. And then after that, the next step comes, and then hopefully the adoption and in the league from a league-wide rollout will happen.
Very cool.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah, you're only seeing the starting point right now, right? And like I said earlier, Kentucky, we've been fortunate enough. Kentucky's leading the way with this, but there's a huge future ahead for this court.
Yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So, just one last thing, Chris. Like Giants, Jets, Yankees, Mets, Knicks, Nets.
We were just talking about that.
We were just watching the Mets win. I'm very happy. We had some tacos across the street right before we came online with you guys. So I'm a Mets fan. I'm a Long Island guy ultimately.
Okay.
So we like the Jets and the Mets. The Jets I can't speak for right now. They're going through a coaching change right today.
Yeah.
Headlines. fire their coach?
I'm the opposite of y'all. I'm Yankees Giants. I grew up though. My dad's from Queens, and then my mom's also from Long Island, Syosset. So
I grew up and lived going to Syosset. I played
there you
hockey at Iceworks over there. You know what's funny though, and I may be one of the weird New Yorkers. Like, if the Mets keep progressing, of course I'm going to cheer for them. But if the Yankees keep progressing, I'm a true New York fan at the end of the day.
I respect it.
So if the Giants or the Jets are in there, and people look at me, and that may not be normal as a true New Yorker, but listen, I go New York at the end of the day.
Hey, I'm out of the conversation in totality. I grew up in Cleveland, so I think there's nothing to talk about here.
It's always 2016, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
There
right.
you go. Yeah.
That's right.
Well, fellas, how can people follow you on social? And if people want to look into, or universities want to look into getting a court or talking with you all, how can they reach you, and just let everybody know how they can come into contact with ASB?
ASB GlassFloor at Instagram. And it's also on X. Follow this week. We're just putting some content out today, tomorrow. So ASB GlassFloor on all the social channels. And if you go to our website, you can just reach out to our info at ASB GlassFloor. There's a contact form there, where we've got a lot of inquiries right now, but we read every single one of those. And we're very attentive and to all of that. So definitely direct your attention there and keep following along, because just wait until Friday night. We're going to be unveiling some pretty cool stuff on the court, and it's just going to catch on from there and go viral.
Well, that is awesome, and we appreciate y'all taking time to hop on here with us, because I know you got 15 million different things going on, and y'all got to try to be 10 places at once. So to hop on here and tell us about what y'all are doing and got in place, and everybody's so excited about Friday night to see, like we mentioned, new coach, the floor, everything's just kind of a perfect storm of newness and excitement. So appreciate y'all enlightening us on everything you're doing at ASB GlassFloor.
Awesome.
We appreciate you. Thanks a lot for the time.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
All right.
Guys, take
Chris
care, guys.
Thornton and BVD, y'all check them out, and the court will be on display Friday night at Rupp Arena, y'all, for Big Blue Madness.
See you guys.
We'll see you guys there.
Take care, guys.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
So that was pretty cool, man.
Yeah, no, it's cool stuff. I guess that I was trying to. I think we were talking about it 2 weeks ago, where it's like I feel like I've seen this elsewhere, and I guess it would have been watching the NBA All-Star game. So that's really cool. I mean, that's pretty state of the art if it's only Kentucky in the NBA All-Star game.
Yeah, and the fact you get the squeak of the sneakers, the ball bounces the same, all those sounds that you grew up with, and I mean, the chain net, the swish isn't the same as the nylon net, things of that nature. So to get the LED court, still get all the same sounds and everything, the same basketball sounds, that's cool. And the fact that Kentucky's first and leading the charge, that's cool as well.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm sure other schools are going to want to start doing the same thing. But, Kentucky's setting the bar high with this. And again, it's an event that's needed to be spiced up a little bit. It got stale for the last 5-6 years, whatever it was. I mean, I stopped covering it because you're just not getting anything out of it. So I'm not sure I'm going to get much out of this one either, just from a standpoint, because we don't do interviews, but I think it'll be much more entertaining to be in attendance than it's been in past years.
Yeah. Speaking of interviews, you had, Kenny Brooks and Mark Pope with Media Day. So both of those guys were in front of the media. Did you feel you got something from what you heard from both of them?
Well, I actually had to work on a men's story, so I didn't get to listen into Brooks. But as far as Pope goes, yeah, he was. It was just refreshing, man. I mean, talk about a guy who takes his time, answers questions, genuinely doesn't seem bothered to be there. It was great. I thought he was very insightful, and was there anything earth-shattering to come out of that press conference? No, but I think it was just a good State of the Union, good start to the preseason, I guess. I mean, the preseason already started, but, from a preseason event standpoint. So we'll main takeaways, nothing earth-shattering. I thought it was interesting, going into some of the intricacies of roster building with coming in and having nothing, just some of the scouting that goes behind them. Talked about how, for example, Ansley Almanor is a guy that a lot of teams didn't recruit hard out of the portal. I mean, I think it ended up being between Kentucky and Siena. So it wasn't like the whole country was going after him. Like Colby Brea, his final five, I think it was the Blue Bloods, right? It was Kentucky, Kansas, UConn, Duke, and someone I'm leaving out, Carolina. So, it wasn't like quite that with Almanor, but, Kentucky was able to find some film and see some things analytically that other teams may have not, and, went out and got them. So I thought that was interesting. And again, it was refreshing to have questions answered in a respectful manner, thoughtful manner. You ask about player A, you learn about player A, not player F. So, it was all good. And, the players, it's a very mature group, as you would imagine. I think it's the oldest roster in Kentucky history going into a season. I'm pretty sure that it factually is. I didn't know if that was a expression or like an exaggeration, or if it's true or not, but I actually think it is exactly that. So it was definitely a different vibe, and you even saw it at Pro Day. It's just a different vibe around this program. And is it going to lead to more W's in the W column in year one? I don't know. We'll see. But definitely could feel a different energy, a different vibe under this staff, and I'm excited to see what that leads to.
And I like the fact that you just caught my ear. The fact that as far as starting lineups or the roster, he said 18 games in, we still don't really have enough data to go on. He said we have biases on what we may feel or how we may start to lean. He said, the NBA, they play 41 games and don't really get a feel. That's half a season, 48-minute games as opposed to 40-minute college games before they actually kind of start to really have enough concrete information. So I just really thought that was interesting to hear him, speak on that yesterday.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's a very analytical approach, which is a lot different than John Calipari, and it makes sense, right? John Calipari is older in age, he's older school, and that's fine. If it works for him, great. The problem is it stopped working, at the end of his tenure here. If it works at Arkansas, God bless him. But it's just that it is nice to have a different thought process, a different approach, different attitude, everything. It was you definitely feel the difference, right? It's still, Kentucky basketball at the end of the day. If the team doesn't perform well, we're going to be on here complaining and questioning what's going on in there. But it definitely feels different. There's no question. I was curious to see just how different. I mean, obviously that press conference, his intro press conference, he knocked out of the park. You could definitely tell he was going to be a unique, different personality. But then, now being around his team a little bit, we had interviews in June, but we had the whole team in the same room. You got to watch him at Pro Day. Madness is probably the least you're going to get out of it, just because they, it's a show, and that's fine. But it's just, you're not going to, oh my God, this team is winning it all based on like madness. But you could definitely sense that things are a little different, around this program, and there's different attitudes, and it's going to be interesting to see how that, translates on the court.
Yep, that's for sure. So it's officially that time, it's a merge crossover where you're covering everything all at once. It's October, and it's always like that every time. So
yes,
you get the media day, you get Madness, you have Vanderbilt coming in Saturday, coming in hot, and we've seen Kentucky have their hands full with very subpar Vanderbilt teams. So now they coming off the biggest upset of the weekend, a weekend full of upsets.
Yeah, well, how about that?
They topped everybody. So
yeah, that was incredible. I mean, I'm still kind of shocked by it. And you got to get, I mean, look, I I mean, I'm shocked they pulled it off. I'm not shocked they fought and had a really good game. I mean, we've seen it all year from them, you know. I know they lost to Georgia State, and that was really deflating, but they beat Virginia Tech, who is not great, not bad, but a historically much better program that had expectations going into this season. You beat them at home. You finished that game off in overtime.
They had Miami beat too. So
yeah, Tech had Miami beat exactly. And then, you know, the Missouri game, and I think was Missouri really the 9th best team in the country going to that game? Probably not. But regardless, they took it to double overtime. And if you make a 31-yard field goal, that game's in triple overtime. But it comes down to 2-point conversions. So, you know, they've played great all year. Diego Pavea was, I think I said it at some point over the season, maybe if not, I wrote it. I thought he was one of the most underrated pickups in the whole portal cycle in the SEC. Just look at what his numbers were at New Mexico State last year, what he did with that roster, you know, taking them to the Conference USA title game, beating Auburn at Auburn. I thought that was a dangerous pickup, like, for the rest of the league. And, you know, he's played out of his mind. So, you know, kudos to Vanderbilt. That was a historic upset and a much-deserved one, but I don't think that changes anything for Kentucky going to this weekend as far as what their chances are. I think, you know, this was going to be, as we talked about, I think 2 weeks ago here, every game against Vanderbilt here in Lexington since 2016 has been a one-score game. And obviously Vandy won the last one. So I think Kentucky probably was expecting a dogfight. Now they can – the coaches have that to be like, hey, these guys just beat Bama. Like, it's not, you know, it's not Vandy of 2 years ago. Like, this is a good, I should say 3 years ago, because Kentucky lost to Vandy of 2 years ago. But, you know, this is a good football team with a really good quarterback, and we got to take them seriously and bring it. And I don't expect Kentucky to be overlooking them by any means. And, you know, Vanderbilt, they've played obviously some good teams, but defensive front wise, I mean, Alabama has struggled defensively all year, and I'm not saying they don't have great players. They obviously do. They're Alabama, but you know, you look at their run defense, you look at their defensive front, and you know, they haven't done what Kentucky's done this year. In Kentucky, you know, there's been 2 quarterbacks they've played with Heisman hopes going into the games, and Carson Beck and Jackson Dart, and they shut both down. They neutralized them. So is Pavea a different cat in the fact they run this near triple option offense, his attitude, his swag? Yeah, he's much different than those guys. But, you know, Kentucky's had their way with quarterbacks this year, some really good quarterbacks this year. And I don't expect that to necessarily change. I mean, they're the number 6 run defense in the country. Vandy wants to run the ball and win the time of possession, very similar to how Kentucky likes to play. So it's going to be it's going to be whichever team is able to play the game, be able to play their style the way they know they want to. Whichever team is able to actually go out there and execute, it's going to win this game. And I think Kentucky still has a good chance to do it. The biggest thing I'm worried about is getting the job done at home. They haven't been able to do that lately.
Yeah. What Stoops was asking about that too. Somebody asked him about his record.
Mark Story did.
Yeah. And sometimes we play good at home and bad on the road.
I mean, in fairness, it's a coach speak answer, but
yeah.
Look, I mean, it's a real thing. It is a real thing. You can't deny that they have been a bad home team in SEC play, and they are 2-9. I was just pulling it up here, 2-9 in their last 11 SEC home games. And that is bad. Their only 2 wins in that span are Mississippi State in 2022, and then Florida last year. I mean, you're talking 2 losses to South Carolina. You're talking a loss to Vandy, a loss to Missouri. Just not good. And on the road, I don't have the record in front of me that Mark brought up, but they've had some pretty big wins, including the one down in Oxford. So for whatever reason, they seem to do better on the road. But you gotta reward the fans who basically in every single one of those games, except maybe Vandy in 23 in 22 because it was rainy and half snowy. They need to be rewarded. They need to go out there and execute, and we'll see. I don't understand what it is, but they struggle at home in Lexington.
And adding to the fact that Vanderbilt is respectable. Kentucky's coming off a bye, and we joked when we did our predictions. Kentucky's got they're easing into the games after the bye because it's Vandy Murray State. Well, you can't say that anymore because they're not. Can't say they're easing into it because Vandy is way better than everybody thought. And you got to come out and start fast. Both teams want to play the same way, but you've got to come out and still be sharp. You can't come out and look unprepared or just be sluggish and like you're in mud. You can't do that.
No, yeah, this team will. If you do that, they're going to hold the ball for 9 minutes. Like that, they love to control the clock, and just like you do. And I thought I think he said it in the past, but Mark Stoops brought it up again at his press conference on Monday. How Clark Lee has kind of talked to him in past years about, hey, I want to build similarly to how you did, which makes perfect sense. I mean, that he was pretty much in the same situation, taking over, a 2-10 football team, a team that was a mess from a roster standpoint. And, he seems to be on a very similar track, hopefully for his sake, he is to Mark Stoops, at least this year. That hire of Jerry Kill, my gosh, might have been one of the most underrated moves in college football all offseason, along with Pavea. So, with that said, it's not just the style of like the vision of, okay, I'm going to bring this bad bottom feeder in the SEC program to the top, or to at least into the respectability category, but we're going to do it in a similar fashion. We're going to run the ball, we're going to control the clock, and we're going to play physically defensively. And Vandy has a very similar blueprint to how they operate as Kentucky. Now, I think what's important to keep in mind here, they still don't have, I still don't think, at least on the defense side of the ball, they don't have the Jimmy Joes Kentucky has yet. I mean, you're still talking about a defense that's, I think, 96th in the country overall, maybe in the 60s now. 96 in past lead. They're 90s. They're in the 60s overall. They've been pretty good against the run. I mean, Georgia State gashed them for over 400 total yards. They still have deficiencies defensively, and they have three. For what it's worth, they have three starters: C.J. Taylor, Langston Patterson, who's their leading tackler. Taylor's their top safety. And then I can't pronounce this last name. Oh, four starters, Brian Longwell as well. All on that injury report is questionable. So I think defensively, they're still a team that you can take advantage of and put some points up on the board. But if Kentucky's going to have it work their way, they're not necessarily going to put 40 on the board. They're going to win this game 27-17, 27 or 20 to 10, and they're going to kill the clock. This is a game that, if both teams play the way they want, it's going to be, it's a good week for it to be a 7:45 game, because it should be over by 10:30. Like these teams want to limit possessions and get the hell on with their night. So, we'll see which team is able to dictate the clock, control the clock, and be able to play their style of football. Because if you get either team out of rhythm, they can get in trouble.
No, and they still kind of try to make up for their deficiency. They play hard. They max out defensively for sure. I mean, they stretch, and like Mark Stoops likes to say, they strain, and the effort is always there. For where the talent is lacking, they
make up
give
for
it their all. Yeah. So that's what.
Yeah, and they're real. They're much better coached. I mean, between basically what Vanderbilt was able to do with bringing in Jerry Kill is Clark Lee calls the defense now. So he's a defensive coordinator from Notre Dame, successful defensive coordinator there. That's his bread and butter. He's was never an offensive guru by any means, and they bring in Tim Beck, the offensive coordinator from New Mexico State. Jerry Kill retires and comes kind of their like chief of offense in a sense, right? So he's kind of running the offense with Beck calling the plays, and Lee is a defensive play caller as a head coach. You don't see that often at all. I mean, you see it in the NFL a little bit with defensive minded coaches like Mike McDonald's in Seattle. I think Todd Bowles in Tampa might call plays, but you just don't see many head coaches call defense in college. So it's allowed Lee to improve that unit. They're much better against the run than this year. I mean, they have deficiencies stopping the pass. They have deficiencies overall, but their run defense is very, very good. compared to what it usually is. I think they're 40th in the country, which is, pretty solid.
Yeah.
So but their offense with Jerry Kill, it's just, I mean, Jamon Dumas-Johnson today kept calling it the triple option. I'm not quite sure it's exactly triple option, but it's close. And I think what's really interesting, and I asked Brad White, he said it was rare. I thought it was rare. You look at their left and right tackles and their left and right guards, they move depending on the hash marks. Like they'll swap positions. So they have versatile offensive linemen at every position but center. It's very interesting what they're doing offensively. It's different than, obviously Ole Miss presented a great deal of challenges with their tempo and their playmakers. Georgia, just their playmakers. But Vanderbilt's scheme and their philosophies and their versatility, and they have a stud tight end in Eli Stowers, who's leading the team in receiving by a mile. Like they present unique challenges, I would say, to what Kentucky has seen with some of the other, good offenses they played this year, or great offenses like Ole Miss.
Yeah, for sure. We had Brock Vandegrift showing up as probable with the shoulder on the Harley Gilmore is probable, which is promising. Cortland Ford probable. Keyshawn Silver probable. Ryan Nichols doubtful. We saw him, with Ole Miss with that shoulder making plays on Harris, singled up on the island, and saw him get hurt down there. Josiah Hayes out, Tevin Gatson out, Darren Henry Young out. Traylon was a setback.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is there. Again, I think it's going to go back to maybe if you get four games, maybe he does redshirt and he's back next year, because I don't know what's going on there. Max is a tough one. Hopefully we'll get an update on exactly what's going on now that we know he's out tomorrow, and Mark Stoops, gives his last little brief update before the game. What's the other one? So Ryan Nichols is a tough one too. That's a kid who had been playing great, as a true freshman, came back in with a dislocated shoulder at Ole Miss. So I guess I don't even know who's next up there. You have JQ Hardaway, DJ Waller, Jansen Dunn. I mean, maybe Nasir Addison or Avery Stewart. We'll see. One of those guys is going to have to step up and be that, third outside corner. But in the good news, like you said, Harley Gilmore is going to be back. It sounds like. I think he's going to get run. I'm curious to see kind of which receiver he takes away time from, but they love that kid, man. He's going to get a chance at some point on Saturday if he's active. And then Cortland Ford is I still don't know anything that happened with him. It's been a very weird situation. I've had people ask if he's left the team, but I've seen him out there. I knew he didn't leave the team, so that's great though if he's healthy. I mean, the two games he started at left tackle last year, he played really good football. I think people forget that just because the offensive line was shaky overall. But Ford played two really, really good games. He started the bowl game against Clemson, which obviously the offense was maybe their best game of the season outside of the fourth quarter. And then he started against Eastern Kentucky. He was the highest graded offensive lineman on the team that week. So, he played really well when he had to last year. And now you have a true swing tackle in the event Gerald Mincy or Marcus Cox gets hurt, a guy who can plug and play at either side at tackle. So that's a big one to get back. But obviously, no Max, no Ryan Nichols. That's really tough. And Chip, you've been playing with that all year. It's not the end of the world, but you just hope you just hope his setback wasn't completely season ending.
Yeah. And what was I just talking about? Am I wrong? But is Gilmore coming back ahead of schedule? Wasn't it like 10 weeks that we thought initially or something way later on in the season?
I had heard 8 to 10 weeks from when he got hurt. So he got hurt. He got hurt. It's about on track. It's on the early side of on track, I would say.
Okay. So yeah, I was a couple weeks off about math. I was thinking it was.
Yeah. I mean, there were some reports that it would be the full 10, but I think 8. I don't know the mental math. I'm not sure, but it seems maybe a little ahead of schedule. But
I'm forgetting it was more middle summer when he got hurt, and so instead of week 1,
second week of August.
Yeah. So that's where I just forgot about those couple weeks. So that's why he's back
Yes,
going
and
into
again, it'll
game
be
6.
interesting to see where they plug and play him because I think Fred Ferrier has kind of earned that 4th receiver role. I think he's made some really tough. I mean, he made some really tough catches that kind of overlooked down in Oxford. Jamori Macklin hasn't quite gotten it going yet. They really need to make a change with him at punt returner. There's going to be a bad play in there sooner rather than later. He just looks nervous after he had the muff week 2. But they haven't really got him going out of the slot. You're not taking Dane Key or Barryon Brown off the field. So is it going to take away time from Jamori? Is it going to kind of kick Anthony Brown-Stevens to that 6th role where he's not playing much? It's going to be interesting, but excited to see Hardley finally get a chance to make his debut as long as he stays on track on Saturday.
Yeah. And I was wondering how that would play out because you heard Stoops say a lot of times when guys miss time, they get so far behind. Even when they're back, they're still behind. And I was wondering if that was going to be the case for Gilmore, and apparently not. He's still caught up enough to be right back out there in some form or fashion once he's healthy. So good for him, and more depth anywhere you can get it, regardless of position, is good.
Absolutely, yeah, no doubt. And again, hopefully all is good with Max. Just from a seriousness standpoint, because again, the only thing I knew he had the shoulder injury that had kind of played in the first couple of weeks, and then he was in the hospital, I think, during the Ole Miss game because he was posting pictures or whatnot. So hopefully he's okay, just from a whatever it is standpoint, seriousness level, and not only hopefully can they get them back out there, but just hopefully he's okay for himself and his well-being and all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So are your Yankees on right now?
They are. They need 5 more outs to go up 2-1. So hopefully they can pull this thing out in KC.
3-2.
Mets beat the Phillies, so I'm hearing a lot about it. I'm happy for some Met fan friends. Some who are classier than others, I'm happy for. But at least it was the Phillies. I don't like the Phillies at all. So I'm okay seeing them go down.
I'm a petty Braves fan. I don't like either one of them. So
right.
I'm glad the Phillies are out, and I'm hoping San Diego with who it looks like.
They look good, man. They're low. They were I didn't place a bet, but in the predictions, I just wrote down and shared with my friends and my brother, dad, who are big baseball guys. I had the Padres winning the whole damn thing. So
wow.
We'll see what happens. But their pitching, their depth, both in the rotation and the bullpen, and so they just have superstars in that lineup. And what's crazy is they traded Juan Soto, and it feels like they bring up this Jackson Merrill kid, a rookie, and he's not Juan Soto, but they didn't get that much of a beat. So
yeah,
they're a very, very impressive ball club out there.
Dodgers up 3-0 for now. We'll see.
Yeah, and that's without Freddie Freeman too. So
yeah, and it was. He tried to come back and get hurt at the end of the year, and he's just not going to be right this postseason. Yeah, it's just one of those things. So the petty Braves fan, I just hope San Diego takes care of the Mets, since one of them had to make it to the NLCS, and it's New York, and these wild card teams, man, you limp in. Look, your Giants did it to my Cowboys. You limp in as a wild card, almost regardless of sport.
Yeah.
You've been fighting for your life every day, and a team that's kind of rested in one division, it doesn't mean they're going to be better in that particular series.
Yeah, especially in baseball now with this whole format where the higher seed has to sit a week before they play, and they got to find a way around that. It's not it's not an excuse for those teams, but baseball is a game. They're creatures of habit. They play every day, and I'm not saying they need to play. They need to play 2 days after the season ends like the wild card teams do, but there's got to be something. It can't be 5 days without playing. I thought that I'm honestly, and I get why MLB does it. I get why any team does playoff expansion, but I thought the best baseball playoff format was 4, right? Where you had the 2 division champs, or the 3 division champs rather, and 1 wild card. I get expansion. You want to get more teams in there. You want to get more fan bases juiced up. TV ratings, blah, blah, blah. But this format is wrong. I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks, and credit to them, last year what they did get into the World Series, they won 84 baseball games. Like that should not be enough to get to the postseason. I don't know what I think the Tigers were the 6th seed this year. They're, one win away from the ALCS. All the credit to what they're doing. They should not be a playoff team. Like they did not have a good enough regular season to be a playoff team. So I'm a little old school when it comes to baseball. Not thrilled with the change.
Yeah. Your Giants trying to get themselves back right. Went to Seattle and got a win. So, trying to get things turned around. So, you got to be happy about that too, right?
Yeah, they're playing a lot better. I mean, again, I think that they are very well coached. I've said that for a long time. I'm a big Brian Daboll fan.
Okay.
He's a pain with the media because he says nothing and he comes off as an asshole. But dude, he coaches well, man. He knows it. I mean, he won 3 games with Tommy DeVito last year, including beating a playoff team, Green Bay. So like this guy he's an offensive mastermind. I think they would score even more points if they had better players, but Malik Neighbors wasn't there last Sunday. Devin Singletary was out, and they still won a game where they should have won by more. They won by 9. They really should have. They had a fumble at the half-yard line, and the Giants thought it crossed the plane, and instead it was a fumble. Seattle took it to the house. No Giants, other than really just one guy, were chasing down the ball carrier. So that was a tough one, but they're playing better.
They overcame that too.
They overcame it. Yeah, they overcame it, and they gave your Cowboys a run. Obviously, finished that one. But they're playing better, and hopefully for my sake, they can pull out a win against Cincinnati. It'd be fun to have it around these parts where it's Bengal country.
Yeah, yeah, and to see them be 1-4 after trying to kind of getting used to being a contender, and now they are back to season is virtually almost out of reach already, for them. So
yeah, no, it's crazy what's going on with them. They're scoring. Their defense just can't stop a nosebleed, and it's tough to win in the NFL when your defense doesn't give you much.
That's it. Oh, and this was a few days ago, but you had the Kentucky guys, Cat getting traded for Julius Randle.
Yeah, how about that?
You're Knicks, man. So I gotta see where you stand on that. I know you're
not
a Knicks fan.
I was in
Giants, but
I think I was in Mississippi when that came down, and I was stunned to say the least. I will say this: I'm with the NBA. I'm not a 82 gamer, right? Where I'm not locked in watching all 82. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, like the college game better. I just think there's more. The defense, the strategy, the atmosphere. I mean, I just think college basketball is a more entertaining product. But with that said, when the Knicks are good, there are a few fan bases in all sports that make a better environment and care more and are more into it. And, it's obviously the franchise I've always rooted for. And I think, you're in this position, if you're the Knicks, where you were the number 2 seed last year, 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals. You had a ton of injuries and, it didn't work out, but you got to go for it. I mean, Boston is the team to beat, obviously, in the East, but outside of that, I mean, was Indy really good last year, or did they just kind of make a magical run? And then is Cleveland any good? Like, they ran out of gas quickly. Philly is always a mess in the playoffs. Like, it's there for you, man. And if you're the Knicks, go out and get the best players you can. And having Cat, Jalen Brunson, Bridges, who am I missing in there? I'm missing another big name, but who am I missing? It's going to drive me crazy. But
Hart and Robinson.
Anunoby.
Oh, okay.
That's who it was.
Okay.
So yeah, and Hart as well. So it's a very, very good roster, top to bottom. Probably the best group of just pure talent they've had in quite some time. So hopefully it translates to winning, and they'll be exciting to watch. There's a lot of star talent on that team.
On the outside looking in, for me, when I saw that they had to part with DiVincenzo. I was like, ugh. But if I'm Minnesota, I'm like, I'm not doing a deal without him because he was a nice piece for them, and he had that dog in him. The whole Villanova thing. I think New York is going to miss him, but like you said, you got to swing for it, and you got to part with some pieces to get a big piece like Cat. So
yeah, you have to, and I was fine with both of it, honestly. I think. Look, it would have been really cool to have that Villanova 4, right? I don't know if that's ever been done before. But I think like you said, you got to give to get, and I think it's worth the risk. I do think that Julius Randle, obviously another Kentucky guy, was he up and down at times? Sure. But he kind of was the trigger man on that first playoff team with Tibbs and kind of got the thing rolling a little bit to the point where, made them more attractive for Jalen Brunson. And, you got to give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do. But, he's a guy who struggled to stay healthy the last couple of years. I think he was a guy that it was okay to move on from. And then, DiVincenzo is a really nice player who was on a really, really affordable contract. So you hate to part ways, but like you said, you got to give to get. And it's a superstar league after all. And hopefully, Cat can play like the superstar he does play like most of the time. I know he had a little bit of a rough postseason this year for Minnesota, but Minnesota, with Anthony Edwards still made a great run, and hopefully he can come have success here.
Yeah, so it's that time. Get the preseason going. Done, and then it'll be regular season for that, and it's all here. It's all rolling. So good stuff, man. Got everything you're doing at the Cat's Paws. I know the yearbook.
Yeah, basketball yearbook should be bailed out end of this week, early next week. So order those if you haven't already. Keep an eye out for them. New era. So it's a piece of history, as I like to call it, memorabilia, whatever you want to call it. And there's a lot of good stuff in there. And it's a very exciting, like you said, I think you said it toward the top, man. It's a busy time of year for us. I mean, it's this week alone. Monday I spent, let's see, what was Monday? Monday was Stoops to Pro Day to our radio show over there with Dick Gabriel. It was just Billy Rutledge and I on Monday night. Then Tuesday was, basketball media day, followed by offense day for football. And then Friday is typically on home. Fridays is my day off. Instead, I'm going to Madness. So, I'm not complaining, by the way, when I'm saying all this, but it is a busy time. There's a lot going on, but it's also the most exciting time because you're in the heart of football season. You're in the heart of conference play. This Kentucky team is right back to where they want to be from they're in this thing now. They can, all their hopes and dreams for this season are still in front of them. And then basketball, it's a new era. There's all the optimism in the world, and we'll see what they're able to do. Yeah,
that's it. Absolutely. And so get the yearbook. Check out the Cat's Paws if you're not doing so. If you're not, I don't know why, but you definitely should. You got Dale Bird, got the exclusive with Leanne Pope. So there's that as well.
That's a really cool story. I don't know if it's online in its entirety, but a good portion of it is online. So you can check that out. And then it'll be the cover story for the next magazine that was printed yesterday and should be in mailboxes next week, if I'm not mistaken.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. All kind of great stuff. Busy time indeed, but we always love it, man. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun, and hopefully they can do some damage at home. Let's. I think Kroger Field will be a great. I think there's going to be a great environment. Coming off the Ole Miss game, team hasn't been home in 3 weeks. Night game, 7:45 SEC game. Vandy doing what they just did.
Keeneland Saturday afternoon. They hit the game.
A lot of hydrating going on in the city of Lexington. So it should be a great atmosphere. I'm looking forward. It's homecoming weekend for what that's worth. So should be a really cool environment for all of a sudden a game that I don't think anyone's overlooking and absolutely shouldn't. And we'll break it all down next week and get ready for another big one. At Florida afterwards.
That's it. So I always appreciate you, AG. Thanks to Chris Thornton and VVG from ASB GlassFloor. Check out how the floor will look Friday at Big Blue Madness. So all kinds of fun stuff going on. Appreciate everybody that checks in. Josh Knight, appreciate all your comments. Appreciate everybody that watches on YouTube and Facebook and follows us on Twitter. And check out the link tree on Twitter. We got the Instagram and TikTok, all the platforms. And we always appreciate bringing you each and every episode of Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Podcast Network. We'll see everybody this time next week.